juveniles are so far away that their families can't visit them. I mean, it's sort of problematic too. So, yeah, I mean, I understand where you're coming from, Commissioner. Yeah, I mean, I don't think anyone disputes that it's a great idea. I just think, you know, we've got some work to do to try and come up with a path forward, and that's sort of been the problem.
You know, in the past, I'm sure it hasn't changed, but some of these kids that go down to, let's just pick Jackson County, they come back with worse habits than we send them. They learn.
I'm sure that that's a problem. Yes. You know, even the other benefit of keeping them local is they can stay in the local school. You know, sometimes the schools lose their FTE money if they, depending on the count day, because they go to that facility and that school or that community, that facility puts them out there. So that's, you know, money that the school potentially lose. It's not a significant problem, but it is. But here they can stay in their own school. Our staff is there. You know, our probation staff can go see them. There's familiarity. Their parents can see them. You know, so. I mean, I don't think anyone disputes the positives with it. I don't think that's the problem. I think everyone understands that. I just think we're trying to work through some of the details, and that's becoming a bit of you know, a little bit problematic. You know, hopefully we get something done.
So last question for you, if I may, Mr. Chair. If we open that facility here in Cheboygan County, is that a plus or a minus for Cheboygan County? If you had that opportunity.
My opinion, I mean, I think it's a plus. I mean, I think, well, I guess it's going to depend on how it's managed. Like the cost, I think, could be I mean, if the cost become too exorbitant, then it isn't a positive. I mean, if it becomes just outrageously expensive, I think that's a negative. If it's fiscally well done and managed well, I think it could be a benefit. I mean, I think it would benefit a lot of I shouldn't say a lot. We don't put a lot of kids in detention, but I think it would be a benefit. It would be a great tool. You know, I guess when I feel like a kid needs that intervention, I would be a little more comfortable doing it than having to send them to Washtenaw County. You know, that's a long hike, and that's a pretty aggressive step for a juvenile to be placed. So, I mean, I think if it's able to be made, if all of the things work out, I think it's clearly positive. Easily.
And now I'm going to interrupt you because
no problem, of course.
But we did this, we researched this. The whole idea of the project was it was going to be county run. We knew that if it was court run, it was cost prohibitive. And that was why we did what we did. That's why we sent our corrections officers for the training. And once again, the state would never have offered the training if we had not mitigated all of those issues. Is that correct?
Yes, that's my understanding, correct.
No further questions, Councilman.
Mr. Chairman, so some of this lies with the state still?
No. This is
None
on
of
us.
this?
This is on us.
Mr. Chairman, if I could, I'd like to make a comment,
Please.
particularly relative to Compass Academy, and then circle back to what we're discussing here
Okay.
with the youth cell. First and foremost, Your Honor, Cheboygan County is unique, and with Compass Academy, I believe 6-7 years ago when I first learned of it, we were, correct me if I'm wrong, one of only 2 counties in the state of Michigan that had such a program, or certainly.
I think we're the only one that's like ours. There are a couple other, they have maybe similar-ish type programming, but I think we're pretty unique to how it's set up and whatnot.
I was encouraged to hear in your report that you're starting to disseminate and talk to other people about what we've done here in Cheboygan County. This was cutting edge thinking, the academy and the academy prior to Compass even. And I think the community needs to understand more of what Cheboygan County does for its youth. And I wish there was a way that more of our citizens knew about Compass Academy, knew about the direction that you sort of taken how we address problems with our youth in our county. And, you know, if there's, the character of a county, in my opinion, is judged on how they treat their youth and their elderly as well. And I think it's important what you're doing, and I recognize that. I wish there was a way to get that word out so more people knew about it. But the same reasons that is an important endeavor that we've started there, so is the youth cell. I could rather imagine it's difficult. Most of these kids come from impoverished families, I believe, and it's probably difficult for their families to go see them. And I don't know that removing those youth out of the county is in the best interest of the child, the family, or the county in general, or this particular board of commissioners. I would implore yourself, sir, and the Sheriff's Department and this board of commissioners to find some common ground and take this whole issue back to the kids and circle right back to this is what it was about from the get-go, and leave some of the angst that exists between us all over this issue, and bring a closure to this, and bring this facility back and make it operational in Cheboygan County. And thank you, sir, for allowing me to get in this input.
Thank you, Steve, good comment.
I want to just give a little, I know I'm up here a lot, and everyone's like, my goodness gracious, but, so the type of kids we're getting at Compass. We have a juvenile who was suspended for 60 days because of issues at school, and the Cheboygan area schools graciously allowed us to place that juvenile at our program. But for Compass, he would not be, and he is one of my favorite kids out there. Every time I go out there, he comes up, he's engaged, he's got a job, he's gonna be graduating here in the, I think he's gonna actually graduate. He'll be done with his credits in the fall, but he had a lot of substance abuse issues. There was a lot going on. And I always joke with him, I call him the big dog, because he's kind of become a leader out there. And he was out 60 days. He would have missed, he'd be in deep trouble academically. He probably doesn't graduate, and he is, I would say, becomes a throwaway kid, but to some extent he would be. And so even those kids, I don't talk about that, but we have those kids who, this is sort of a life raft for them to, maybe avoid, but he's got a job, his employers love him, he is a worker, and, things like that. Those are the kind of kids we're getting in our program. So I do appreciate your comments, and there's more even than what I can really talk about, but there's a lot of those type of success stories that we have.
I do wish that your efforts and what we've done here receive more recognition. Perhaps, unfortunately, we don't have a meeting any longer that covers what goes on in our county. But, perhaps we could put that on a link to that on our website, where it's an explanation so the county can begin to understand what we are trying to do for our youth. And again, I would compel yourself, sir, the sheriff, and this board of directors to put the kids first and find a solution to this and go back to it before we wind up where Commissioner Claremont is proposing, and that is returning $600,000 or $540,000, if I remember correctly, to the state, because at the end of the day, that would be the right thing to do and the honorable thing to do. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Steve.
Any other questions?
Thank you, Your Honor. I know. I can see the perforations in the shots, that went through, so.
Well, thank you, gentlemen and ladies. Have a great day. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Judge.
Wait, no, I'm donating it. Oh, it's lost. I dropped my pen, it went under, so have a good day, guys. Thank you.
Thanks, Joe. We're down to item 8B, land bank. Is there, she is.
Good morning. Sharon Lang. So just briefly before I invite our guests up, it's an opportunity today, and I'm excited about that, to demonstrate to you how economic development for us is beginning to hit on all cylinders. In the room, we have our very important that you're funding and have been for quite some time, NEMCOG. We also have the NLEA, and we have the city of Cheboygan. And so this topic, we're only gonna be brief, because frankly, we've discussed this a lot over many, many years. So you've had a lot of information about this. This is a can that's been kicked. But hopefully, we can bring these folks in. They will give you, and they're the best that there is. They know all of the details and help inspire you to maybe stop talking and help provide us with this tool, because it really is very necessary. And it's important for the work that we're doing and that we're all doing together. So with that, it looks like we're gonna have Mr. Baum from NEMCOG come up and address first.
I have a handout if I may, Mr. Chair.
Sure, Doug, thank you.
Morning, everyone.
Good seeing you.
Morning. Morning, sure.
Doug is the CEO of NEMCOG, Northeast Michigan Council of Governments.
So before I get into this, I'm gonna squirrel on you a little bit, because I would like to talk about Mr. Wallace. Not that that hasn't been that much already. So, I've been with NEMCOG a little over 3 years now, and as you probably know, John is on our board. Prior to that, I was on the board of NEMCOG for over 10 years, representing the city of Grayling, and having John as one of my co-board members, I can tell you, and I'm sure you're not surprised at all, just the value that he brought to the table. Every meeting, his guidance, his leadership was just steadfast. And I just want to thank him for his years of service on the NEMCOG board and the service that he has provided to the Northeast region. So,
Thank you, Doug.
thank you.
Thank you.
So you're probably wondering why are we talking about land bank now? And where is this coming from? Why is this important? So if I may, I'm gonna set the stage a little bit with you. So as I stated, before coming to NEMCOG, I worked for the city of Grayling. I was their police chief and city manager for several years, and being in Crawford County, they did not have a land bank. During my tenure here, we worked with the city, worked with the county, and we were able to develop a brownfield authority, but we never were able to get anywhere with land bank. My frustration from the city side was trying to bring tools to the table to help with development, deal with blight, and those type of issues. The state land bank is available, or was available to us at that time, but they're more reactive than proactive as far as the work that they do. Obviously, they have, they don't have a large staff, they cover the state, and so oftentimes because of the time delay in trying to get projects done, we often did not engage with them on projects in the city. So, being kind of familiar with that, when I came on board with NEMCOG, and looking and getting to know the region better than what I had, I found out that many of the counties in Northeast Michigan do not have land banks. And also during that time, the land bank business has changed. And it's become, more of an economic development tool for communities to use, and brings a lot more resources and tools to the table to allow for developments. My conversations, I had direct meetings with the state land bank folks, and had the discussion of what about a regional land bank? Because I know that our small counties, we don't have the resources in our treasurer's office to take on a lot of extra work. And that would be the last thing that we would want to cause, to have happen. And the response from the state land bank was, well, it's never been done before. but that doesn't mean that we can't try. Obviously, the state land bank, their mission is to try and encourage counties to have their own land bank, so again, you can be much more proactive at what you're doing. So in doing some research, under Act 8 of 1968, it allows for municipalities to join together under an interlocal agreement to provide joint services. So in your case, an example would be your central dispatch. You know, you have an agreement with the other counties to provide that service. Very similar to what this would look like. You would still have to form your own land bank, and by all means, NEMCOG would be more than happy to assist with that in any way that we could do that. But what we're trying to do now is we're trying to meet with the counties across the region and gauge the interest in coming together, pooling resources, and developing a regional land bank, which would do the day-to-day work of the land bank business, and that takes the work out of the treasurer's office. I'm not saying that there's not gonna be any additional work, but the day-to-day work would be what we would focus on taking the load. We would have to develop a board to run that, similar to like you have your committee for your central dispatch. NEMCOG, we're in a position that we do regional projects all the time. Another example is our community corrections program. Your county is part of our Northeast region community corrections. We're the largest community corrections regional program in the state of Michigan. Because all of our counties are too small to have their own community corrections people. So we manage that at a regional level and bring those resources to you. So I'm here today with Jennifer Riggs. She's our contractor. She has many years in land bank business, and she's a lot smarter in this than I am. So I'm not going to get into like what it could bring you. I'll let her do that. But I just wanted to give you an idea of why this is coming out today, why NEMCOG is in this space. It's because, you know, we really want to see development happen, especially housing. We really need housing in Northeast Michigan, and if we can bring more tools to the table, that would be best. So I'll let Jennifer take over from this point.
Hi everyone, Jennifer Riggs, Director of Develop IASCO and also contracting with NEMCOG to help pull this thing together. I lived in Genesee County until 2021, worked in Genesee County Land Bank until last August, so then it was 16 years before I came up to work for Develop IASCO. Live in Tawas, so a little hike this morning, but not too bad. But I wore all the hats you can imagine at land bank and a lot of things, and I'm very familiar with the tools that land banking allows. There was this old model of land banking that's dealt with tax foreclosed properties in downstate that is still often what they're dealing with. But up here, that's less what land banks are for, and it's more of a redevelopment tool. Most of the land banks in rural areas aren't even dealing with properties that have gone through tax foreclosure. They're not even touching those ones. They're acquiring other properties that are blighted, abandoned, and need supportive services to deal with the mess that's been left behind from legacy. As a land bank, it's a public entity, the authority of the county government. So there's some benefits to that. It becomes the public's decision what happens to properties it takes on, which is why you want the board. Land banks can take on properties that have clouded titles and do expedited quiet title, which is a lot longer and more arduous of a task if you don't have the expedited authority. They can work with EPA and Eagle to get grant funds for cleaning up environmentally contaminated properties. They work with, entities like NISHDA to bring in grant dollars. They work really, really well with your VRA. Somebody said it's like, who said it was like peanut butter and chocolate? The two of them together. Because the VRA has the TIF capacity, but they don't own property. And anything that touches a land-based inventory is automatically eligible for the brownfield TIF, or as what a lot of people are thinking now is housing TIF, but it's all the same TIF, So if a land bank acquires a property, they can work with the DRE to write a plan for redevelopment, and they can mix it with other grant dollars to make affordable housing units come online more quickly. They can work with developers, so they can take on a property and say, we're gonna hold it in our inventory, while the developer is working on the pathways they need to do to make the property become developable. And the land bank holds the title while the developers are working on those pre-development things that they need before they deed it to them. Land banks can do things like put teeth in their deeds that say we're deeding the developer this property, but we're putting a lien on it that the development needs to actually happen. And if the development doesn't happen, we're taking it back. So there's a lot of different tools that the land banking can take on that are very useful in bringing in things like affordable housing. And as Doug said, we realize that many of the counties, ones that are even much smaller than yours, don't have the capacity to work on all those things. So the idea of basically a shared service model of sharing the staff to get that work done makes a lot of sense for Northeast Michigan. And I think if we can pull it off and show that it's successful in Northeast Michigan, we'll have other locations around the state stepping up and doing the same thing, probably at the UP and other areas that are super rural that need these services as well, but don't have the capacity. Do you guys have questions about
Well,
what we
before we do questions, though, what I would interject here is what you're seeing is us trying to work together as your economic development team in the county to create solutions so that we can stop kicking down the road and get the tool in our hands. And before I open the floor to you, also with the NLEA, because we are kind of this entire, I guess, force that's hitting on all cylinders, well, Jessica come up just for a few minutes too, because I think she's got something exciting to share. Really, and it goes back to Peyton Hines as well in her service from the NLEA side.
Morning, Jessica Love, Northern Lakes Economic Alliance. So as Sharon alluded, so Peyton Hines unfortunately couldn't be here today, but she, in a previous role, worked with land banks nationally and across Michigan for over a decade, so she is a wealth of knowledge when it comes to land banks and what land banking can do. So with NEMCOG and NLA, you've got a huge depth of knowledge. So I just want to kind of touch on a couple of the positive impacts a land bank can have, whether it's increasing property values, eliminating back taxes, reducing the acquisition costs for these properties. It also is about creating this long-term tool. So the land bank is part of your infrastructure for redevelopment and housing recovery. It's about regaining local control. So instead of abandoned properties sitting in limbo, it gives you an opportunity to strategically guide the reuse of these properties. It's about protecting your taxpayers. So blight is already costing you money through enforcement, emergency response, declining values, and your loss of investment. Through land bank, it can help support housing and economic development. So it is a great tool. Again, it additionally has access to resources that otherwise would go unused. We have neighboring counties that were able to tap into some of these funds to help homeowner rehab, as well as demolition and cleanup of abandoned and blighted properties. So it's a pretty important tool that can be useful, especially in our economic development